So over the holidays, I discovered that my cat Obi-Wan seems to love Taylor Swift, and while I was standing in the kitchen holding him up so he could see the end of the Eras Tour documentary, I naturally started to ponder concert logistics. This is true, by the way. I'm not just making up a cutesy story to boost viewer engagement. Regrettably, I didn't think to get a picture or video of him watching it, not that I could have while holding him, I guess, so you'll have to trust me. Anyway, while he was absolutely locked in on the pretty lights and sounds, or whatever he liked about it, I was wondering about the super complicated stage they were standing on and how they took all that with them everywhere they went. I assume this was probably answered earlier in the series, but me and Obi-Wan only caught the last 20 minutes or so. But my fascination with real-life logistics is exceeded only by my fascination with Star Wars logistics, so that made me think of how that would make for an interesting video topic, which is where we are now. I'm Joey from Radio Free Coruscant, and these are the best ships for bands in Star Wars. FR-193D. Now, for the most part, I am going to focus on ships for larger concert tours, as smaller indie bands could use basically any of the ships I usually recommend in my videos, and there's only so many times I can bring up the Gozanti Cruiser or GX-1 short hauler before you'll start to think I'm being lazy. I am not going to apologize, it will happen again. But I still wanted to throw a bone to these smaller musicians with a regular shuttlecraft, and for that I would recommend the Ferrex Field Yards FR-193D cargo hauler. This ship is essentially just a space box van and would be perfect for a little indie band to take on the road. Well, not on the road in this case, it's space, you know what I mean. The stats of the FR-193D are unknown, but I have estimated them in the past. It should be around 14.3 meters long by about 6 meters wide and 4.7 tall. It had a top atmospheric speed around 750 kilometers per hour and probably a Class 2 hyperdrive. It was unarmed and required a crew of 1 to 2. It could also carry 2 to 4 passengers, about 1 ton of cargo, and probably a week of consumables, perfect for a small band going on tour. And better yet, because of its small size and lack of sophisticated technology, it likely didn't cost much more than 20,000 credits. Maxillipede Shuttle. One of the finest shuttles in all of Star Wars is the Sheathipede, but it is quite a bit too small for our purposes. However, its big brother, the Heyor Chal Engineering Maxillipede class shuttle, should be sufficient. This shuttle model doesn't seem to be too common, but for bands starting out on former Separatist worlds, it probably shouldn't be too hard to find one for sale in government surplus. Although for all we know, it could have just been openly sold to the public. It probably would have made a good cargo shuttle or something. I have chosen it for this list because of its striking appearance with 2 large dorsal fins and enormous cockpit windows. The fins would make the perfect canvas for your band's name or logo, and its bug-like look in general would be quite memorable and probably popular with your fans. It wouldn't be for everyone, but I think the right band would get a real kick out of it. The Maxillipede was said to be 14.4 meters long, but that is exactly the same size as the Sheathipede shuttle, which it is clearly much larger than. Its other known stats also appear to be copied from the Sheathipede, so unfortunately we probably need to discard them all and come up with our own from scratch. I would estimate it to be about 28 meters long by 20 meters wide and 22 tall. Its listed top speed of 880 kilometers per hour and Class 1 hyperdrive were likely correct. The ship could be operated by just 1 pilot and an astromech droid, though I imagine it was probably intended to have a crew of 1 pilot, 1 co-pilot, and possibly 1 flight engineer. At around twice the size of the Sheathipede, it could probably also carry twice as many passengers, namely 16. It could also carry 150 tons of cargo and 1 month of consumables. And of course, its price was probably about double that of the Sheathipede as well, though I'll round down to 200,000 credits since it isn't quite as luxurious as the original model of Sheathipede was supposed to be. It could also probably be purchased used for just 100,000. Personal Luxury Yacht 3000. Of course, many musicians would prefer something a little more elegant than a cargo ship or heavy shuttle, and the Sorosub Personal Luxury Yacht 3000 would be the ideal ship for them. The Luxury 3000 was one of the most popular space yachts on the market, and could be found anywhere from diplomatic offices on Coruscant to backwater shiplots on Nal Hutta. These ships were outfitted with a large dining suite, several passenger cabins, an observation deck, and many other amenities that would make it the perfect place for hanging out and relaxing after a performance. You could probably even install audio equipment in one of its rooms to convert it into a place to practice or even record new music. The Luxury 3000 is also unique among the other ships on this list for being good for a band of any size. It was fairly accessible, if a bit expensive, so smaller bands could use it to live in and carry all their stuff while on tour. But its luxurious design and popularity with elites mean a superstar musician could also use one of these as their private starship while on tour to throw lavish parties with fellow celebrities. They would likely need an additional freighter to carry their equipment and crew if they did this, though. I imagine it also wouldn't be too hard to convert part or all of the main lounge into a lot of additional passenger or cargo space if you'd prefer, possibly even in a way that would still let you use the space for other purposes while the ship was unloaded. The PLY 3000 measured 55.5 meters long by about 24 meters wide and 13 meters tall. It had a top speed of 850 kilometers per hour and a Class II hyperdrive. Most Luxury 3000s were unarmed, but they could be equipped with a ventral retractable laser turret if desired. The ship required only 2 crew, though I imagine many PLY owners also hired flight attendants to tend the onboard bar and whatnot. It also carried 10 passengers, 100 tons of cargo, and 1 month of consumables. The ship was somewhat expensive at 250,000 credits new or 150,000 used, but for its size and luxurious amenities, that is still a pretty good deal. CSS-1. According to a cursory Google search, an average mid-sized band might travel with an entourage of 10 to 20 crew members, such as a manager, technicians, choreographers, and more, making the previous couple of ships the perfect size for them. However, major headliners take many more people along, and MarketGrowthReports.com says that in 2023 the average arena tour involved 96 crew members and 4 trucks worth of equipment. Furthermore, the biggest stars need even more crew than that, with some tours, such as the Eras tour Obi-Wan was so obsessed with, taking along an estimated 200 to 300 crew and enough cargo to require 50 truck drivers. These productions are monumental undertakings, and in the Star Wars universe, they may well be even grander than that. But while Earth's biggest singers require a mind-boggling fleet of trucks and planes to pull off these feats of logistics, a similarly sized tour in Star Wars could likely be accomplished with just 1 or 2 of the right vehicles. And I think the right ship for a job like this would be the Corellian Engineering Corporation CSS-1 Corellian Star Shuttle. This ship was popular among diplomats and ambassadors, but its large passenger and cargo capacity would make it perfect for this purpose as well. The CSS-1 measured 80 meters long by about 32 meters wide and 17 meters tall. It had a top speed of 800 kilometers per hour and a Class 1.5 hyperdrive. It was unarmed, but some were modified to include weapons. The ship required a crew of 8, and could carry 200 passengers, 900 tons of cargo, and 3 years of consumables. Its price is currently unknown, but I would guess it to be around 500,000 credits new, or 200,000 used. CR70 Corvette. And finally, one of the best ships for musicians in Star Wars would be the Corellian Engineering Corporation CR70 Corvette. When I came up with this video idea, I was a little mad that I just used the CR90 Corvette in the previous video, as it would have been perfect for this. I debated replacing it with the Corellian Starliner, but then I remembered the CR90's little brother, the CR70, and decided that it would be even better than either of the other options. Despite being older and less popular than the CR90, it had many of the same qualities and features that ship did, but wrapped up in a slightly smaller package. It was sleek, stylish, and highly capable, perfect for a wide variety of roles, including transporting a band and their crew to concert locations across the galaxy. Assuming its internal layout was comparable to the CR-90's, it would be fantastic as both a transport for the crew and equipment, and a party and practice venue for the stars. Out of universe, the CR-70 has a somewhat interesting origin. The ship came about because Bail Organa's CR-90, the Tantive 4, was depicted so inaccurately in Revenge of the Sith that it later had to be retconned to be a different ship entirely, the Tantive 3. This design was likely based on an inaccurate blueprint that appeared in the Essential Guide to Vehicles and Vessels that portrayed the CR-90 as being much shorter overall than it actually was in A New Hope. But in addition to the inaccurate proportions, the Tantive 3 featured many aesthetic and structural differences to the CR-90 and was eventually retconned to be a predecessor to it, the CR-70. The CR-70 measured 120 meters long by 49 meters wide and 32 meters tall. Its top speed was rated for 950 kilometers per hour, but it should probably be a bit higher than that of the CR-90, as its 11 engines were slightly larger than those of the CR-90, and the CR-70 overall was about 0.8 times the size and presumably mass of the larger ship. I would guess its speed to be around 1100 kilometers per hour. It also had a Class II hyperdrive, and was armed with 2 double turbolaser turrets. It also had a small ventral hangar bay that could accommodate a small starfighter or light shuttle, though it wasn't intended as a carrier. This hangar could also make loading and unloading cargo very easy, as band equipment could be loaded directly onto a cargo skiff and taken to the concert venue without having to make multiple trips down the ship's tiny boarding elevator or seeking out a docking bay that could connect to its airlocks. The CR-70 required 18 to 150 crew, a bit less than the CR-90 at the high end, but just over half at the low end. Like the CR-90, it could carry up to 600 passengers, and it could carry even more cargo, with a maximum capacity of 5,000 tons. The typical CR-70 was configured to require 30 crew and carry 250 passengers, 5,000 tons of cargo, and 1 year of consumables, making it the perfect ship for major concert tours. It did come at a substantial cost of 2.9 million credits new or 1 million used, but the CR-70 would be worth every penny to those with enough to spare. And those are 5 of the best ships for touring musicians in Star Wars. Let me know which of these was your favorite, and what other topics you'd like to see in the future in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel as well for more videos just like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. RFC, out.